Hey guys, how's it going? And happy Friday. I hope all of you are doing good. Friday the 13th. Well, with what the ATF's been doing lately, and quite frankly, much of the government, Friday the 13th isn't every day Friday the 13th. It seems like it is. Seems like Groundhog's Day, where you just wake up every day and it's like, well, the ATF's going to ban something today. What is it going to be? Well, if you haven't heard yet, which I'm sure you already have, pistol braces were just, or pistols with braces were just banned, reclassified by this 300-page rule law. Now, hold on a minute before you say, but the ATF can't make law. I would agree in principle. However, they actually just did. They literally changed words in a congressionally passed law. It's in this ruling. And I think it's literally insane. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, are they literally trying to make tens of millions of Americans into felons overnight? Yeah, probably. And I think this rule is a trap, and there's lots of traps in it. We're going to discuss some of that rule tonight. I'm not just going to sit here and bore you and show the whole rule on my screen and just keep scrolling through it for 2 hours straight reading all of it. However, I'll discuss some excerpts and some things from it that are germane to the topic and particularly startling. I want to talk about what's really going on here. And I want to talk about America, and I want to talk about we the people. But before we start any of that, we really need to talk about what's going on here. They're literally trying to take tens of millions of good people, people that have considered themselves to be law-abiding, and make them future felons of America. Having a piece of plastic and elastic strapped to certain types of pistols could overnight, at the blink of an eye, turn your world upside down. $250,000 fine, 10 years in prison, but not necessarily because it's a firearms charge, because of a $200 tax. Just think about that in your life. Failure to pay a $200 tax could, and in many cases would, find you doing time in a federal penitentiary, making yourself a so-called prohibited person pursuant to the National Firearms Act of 1934 and the Gun Control Act of 1968. Loss of your job, disconnect with your family, not necessarily losing your rights, but losing your ability to freely exercise them. That's all on the line right now. And people talk about the line. People say phrases like line in the sand. They say things like mole and labe. People say things like, I shall not comply, but what are the American people going to do about this? I don't know, actually. Maybe some of you have ideas about it, but I do know we have a problem. We have a big problem in this base, ban, rule, clarification, reclassification, future felons of America. This is a really, really big deal. And it's a big deal because it all boils down to one simple thing. I'm going to mention it, I'm sure, later in the stream, but I want to start off on the right foot, just so we can all put our mind in the right place. Because you actually have to truly realize what's going on right now. This problem supersedes the United States government. It supersedes any form of government. This is something that's been going on literally since humans were on this earth, and will continue to be here as long as our species is on this planet. This is a battle of good versus evil. The ATF is trying to evoke evil. The former vice president is trying to perpetrate evil. And many people in our government have become tyrannical and evil. And in the past, evil always has prevailed, currently is, and always will prevail when good men do nothing. Here's my challenge to all of you. And yes, I'm going to talk about the specifics with this brace ban. And one more time, I believe it's a trap. I believe it's a big deal. Whether it's a line or not, I'll have to look at the American people and see whether it is or not. But the only way it's even possible, and Thomas Jefferson talked about this in the Declaration of Independence, all of the founding fathers talked about this before the United States of America was a country. When they were under the King of England, they talked about what a government would be. And they devised this government, which was an experiment on self-governance. As Benjamin Franklin said, a republic, if you can keep it. That meant the people back then. It means the people now. And that we would have a government that was only there to protect our natural rights, that were endowed by your creator. These are laws of nature and of nature's God. And this is going to keep continuing as long as good men do nothing. Every single person watching this right now, we have to start doing something. And you need to tell all your friends and family that. It's not enough to say, well, I'm good. I'm law-abiding. Leave me alone. Yeah, leave you alone until all of a sudden you're not a law-abiding citizen anymore. And they're trying to change that with tens of millions, possibly up to 100 million people in this country right now, or certainly within the next 20 days, 120 days. I know at first you guys want to think to yourself, but I'm only one person. What can I do? Yeah, if you're by yourself, you're only a grain of sand. However, when you start accumulating enough of them, you can fill a bucket with it. Buckets full can start to make a mound. It can make a hill, and it can make a mountain. And it's called going over the head of the government. We need a mandate from the American people to say enough's enough. Don't tread on me. I was endowed by my creator with certain unalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the only way this government can operate is at the consent of the governed. That's what America is supposed to be. That's what America should be. And we need to turn America back into that again. The consent to the governed, that's literally you, who on a surface level, you might think you're a nobody, but we need to change that. Quite frankly, you and all of us are the only thing that matters. The government's here to serve us and to protect our natural rights. As we see fit, as we see will protect our safety and happiness, not the other way around. So I challenge all of you. We have to focus on the local level because that's where we can affect the most change. And I've been talking about it all week today. I went to my state capitol. And I was honored to be able to sit on the state house floor with her when she was doing her swearing in during the first day of the new legislative session of Michigan. And I video recorded her taking her oath, and I posted it to this YouTube channel. And I will stand behind that woman, and I love her to death, and I'm going to fight like hell to make sure that she can protect our God-given rights in Michigan, and I'm going to hold her accountable if she fails us and doesn't honor that oath. And that's what I encourage all of you guys to do. With your school board, in your local community, your township hall, up to your state. That's the way the United States is supposed to operate. And I just encourage you. And I ask all of you, you just have to do something. If you can't make it to the Capitol, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors. We're in a culture war. And politics is downstream from culture. And we need to reject the tyrannical culture that the ATF is putting upon us. And I did a shorter video that's about 12 minutes long talking about some of the nuts and bolts, but this is going to be more of a long-form conversation. I know some of you guys are going to have questions during the stream. I took some notes of some good questions that I saw in the comment section and some questions that I thought people might ask, and I'm going to try to address those. If you guys have any questions that you really need answered, I will answer all super chats tonight. And I really want to thank you guys for supporting this channel. This is a grassroots channel funded by my viewers. So thank you so much for all of you who are Patreon supporters, YouTube channel members, those of you who leave generous super chats. Sometimes you guys send me stuff. I really appreciate all that because we can do whatever the heck we want. And also make sure you check out my locals community, which is a censorship-free site where I can do much content that I'm prohibited from posting here on YouTube, including awesome deals. Like there's some crazy ones over there right now. Can't promote them here. And I'm not doing that. And I also do a weekly live stream where I touch guns, maybe even guns with braces, every Saturday night. So check out my locals community. It's free to join, or you can support. So the former vice president, he calls him the AFT, right? Well, he used to drive around in his Corvette. By the way, let's go, Brandon. The former vice president, he used to drive around in his Corvette till he couldn't anymore because there was so many boxes of documents, allegedly, right? Look, he said after he was coming after our guns. And there's still people somehow out there, somehow saying, ain't nobody coming after your guns. All right. those people are part of the problem. Not because I want people to be sinister, not that I want people to be in a bad mood. I don't want you in a bad mood. And if you swallow the black pill, spit it out. It's time everyone watching reminds all of your friends, you need to man up. If we want a government at the consent of the governed, we can't just sit and complain and say the world is nigh, everything's terrible. Let's just burn it all down, because you have to be really careful of what you wish for. Because you burn something down, as crappy as it might be, and it's pretty crappy right now, what's going to arise from those ashes? Well, we should look at history. We look at history when it comes to things like registration leads to confiscation. Tyrannical leaders lead to death, starvation, mass murder. There's certain things in history that we need to look at, right? Well, this is no different. It's time to do something. And if you're just going to do nothing and watch it burn down, look at recent history, look at past history. The United States is one of the only revolutions that ever resulted in something that was better for the people. And are the people the same now as they were in 1775 and 1776? My short answer would be no, they're not. And that's why I do this channel. We need to talk about culture. We need to make America cool again. We need to make the Declaration of Independence pop culture, the Bill of Rights. I mean, certain unalienable rights that are endowed by our Creator, and not limited to, but among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If we can't make that cool again, and we can't start reminding everybody of that again, then there's something wrong with us. The notion that you just tear down the United States instantly and let it explode, that you're going to get something better. Look at what happened after the Cuban Revolution. Look what happened in Venezuela. Look what happened in the Chinese Cultural Revolution under Mao, and how it's evolved into the CCP today. So yeah, we need to change this government. We have the right, we have the duty to alter it and or abolish it. And it needs altered like crazy right now, like it never has needed to be altered before. And there's certain times where you ask people to come and help you, and that's a mistake. We're our own first responders. We talk about that all the time when it comes to when seconds matter, police are only minutes away, meaning the firearm at your side, on you, your concealed carry at your bedside. And that's true. But it's also true when it comes to this government. If we need help, we need to look to the American people, and we need to go over the head of the government. It's happened before in this country, and it's happened several times before. And quite frankly, it's our only hope. People that are good in our government, you need to stand behind them steadfast while holding them accountable every step of the way. If there's nobody good in your area of government, you probably need to run yourself or get behind somebody that you know is good, that you find would be most effective in preserving your safety and happiness. Because they've reclassified and they've reclarified, they've whatever. Like I said earlier, in my opinion, set a big convoluted 293-page trap with factoring criteria for firearms with attached stabilizing braces. Now, I want to start off, in case there's somebody new to the channel. I've talked about this a lot before, but these are conversations that maybe I can spark that you guys can have with your friends and family. The Constitution says that Congress makes law, okay? That we are also to have 3 separate branches of government. We are to have a legislative body that makes laws. We are to have an executive branch that is to execute the laws. And the chief executive, normally the president, in this case the former vice president, would also serve as the commander-in-chief of the armed services. But basically, that branch executes law. That would be the Department of Justice under the Attorney General. And then down below that, the ATF, AFT. Yeah, you can't even make this up. Somebody occupying the White House that doesn't even know what they're called. But he knows how to sick them on you to try to make you and possibly everybody you know a felon overnight. And then we have a judiciary branch that is supposed to be an impartial judge, right, of whether something's constitutional or not, whether a law is constitutional or not. Instead, we have the fourth and unequal branch of government. Well, hold on a minute. I didn't learn about that in history class. Well, of course you didn't, because the founding fathers didn't create a fourth branch of government. However, is repugnant to the Constitution as it is. We now have bureaucracy acting as a fourth, and not only unequal, but in many ways more powerful than the other three combined. So they say, so they act like, and they will as long as they have the consent to the governed, and they do because they have had the consent to the governed. Obviously. Wait, I don't consent, neither do you. I know. That's the problem with America right now. Not enough people are awake. Not enough people know what's going on. In fact, if you don't mind sharing that shorter video earlier or this stream with your friends, please do, because there's probably a lot of people that don't even know they might become a future fawn of America very soon here. This is a problem. We have law enforcement, the ATF. They're the ones that make sure your dog's in order, that have been showing up to people's houses, will possibly show up to your house, your neighbor's house, someone's house. Law enforcement. They're also now apparently, allegedly writing laws. I know they can't write laws but they just did. These are the difference between they can't because a piece of paper says they can't. A beautiful piece of paper on parchment that isn't even worth its weight in anything if there's not people, if there's not Americans there to stand by it and to make sure that they uphold it. They literally changed the sections of a law in this. So they can't make law, and they just did. They've also gone through under, apparently, I don't think they followed it correctly, in my opinion, but apparently, they went through all of the APA, the Administrative Procedures Act, and followed all the rules, and they accepted comments and concerns, and then they just sit here and address them, one after another, after another. In fact, a couple hundred pages worth. And they basically are adjudicating their own rule as being fair. So hold on a minute. This is like the fox guarding the hen house, you say. Yeah, I know, I agree. That's why this is a problem. So they're put in charge of enforcing the laws. They just literally, semantics, pedantics, whatever, but in real life, they just made law, like altered the actual CFR, and now they're self-adjudicating their own thing. Executive, legislative, and judicial. Yeah, all right here within this crest. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, established in 1972. We became the greatest country in the world. Think about that for a minute. For just 4 years shy of 200. The countries continue to be less free the more bureaucrats and organizations we put in. How did we ever become the greatest country in the world without the AFT? Founded in 1972. There's a lot of people that are so young, you might assume that it's always been there. It's not always been there. The Department of Education wasn't put until 1979, if you were wondering. And it says real small on the bottom. Protecting the people, serving our nation. ATF. Think about that for a minute. They act as a fourth, unequal, unchecked branch of tyrannical government, and then they insult you by putting that there. Wow. They listened to what you had to say. We put in hundreds of thousands of comments, which they acknowledge. In some cases, straightforward, in some cases, sarcastic, and in some cases, they're a bit more than snarky. They summarily dismiss all of your concerns. They got rid of the worksheet and put in some other factors that is insane and vague and ambiguous as the worksheet was. What they did to change that section of it, they eliminated worksheet 4999 and put in just a couple paragraphs that, in my opinion, make it even, if it was even possible, 10 times more vague than that. There's some contradictions there's some things in here where it's like, what was first, the chicken or the egg? Are they putting the cart before the horse? And it's very, very confusing. And I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not here to give legal advice, and nothing here is to be suggested as such. I'm not going to be able to answer all the questions that people have because who knows? I mean, I can read the Constitution and see what that says. That's easy to understand. I can read the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Well, that's extremely easy to understand. Duh. A third grader can understand that. Quite frankly, an intelligent kindergartner could. Obviously, everybody knows what that means. Everybody with a brain, that is. But with that said, if the government understood what the Constitution said, and if the people were holding them accountable to it, we wouldn't even have a National Firearms Act. And we wouldn't even have a Gun Control Act, which is what all of this is being promulgated upon, what is being redefined, the words that they're adding to the legislation. So with that said, we shouldn't even be talking about this right now. Literally. There's no reason we should be talking about this. Except for the people apparently have been consenting to this for a long time, and here we are. Here we are almost 250 years after this country was formed. And almost about 230, a little over 230 years now, since they wrote down those words, shall not be infringed. And it's been accepted as fact that shall not be infringed includes the National Firearms Act, apparently. The Gun Control Act of 1968. I guess Marbury v. Madison, one of the most important and earliest Supreme Court cases, I guess that in and of itself has become null and void because it says all laws repugnant to the Constitution are void. They don't exist. They're gone. So, with that said, the unconstitutional National Firearms Act still being allowed to stand, and the unconstitutional Gun Control Act of 1968 still being allowed to stand. See where we need to start getting involved, guys? Like literally, from the bottom all the way up. On the state level matters more than anything. Look at what Texas is doing right now with the homemade silencers. They're actually using their government to fight the ATF on this, and it could be a very important pivotal court case. So before anyone says, this is the ATF, these are Fed boys, yeah, your states matter. We are not the United Federal Government of America. We are the United States of America. And the 10th Amendment talks about where that power is supposed to be delegated to. Not rights, because government doesn't have rights. Only people have rights. But as far as power goes, the federal government is supposed to have the very least. The states are supposed to have more power than that, and we the people are supposed to have the vast majority, if not almost all of the power. That's what our country's founded on, and we need to start treating it like that. The most important thing right now is you, your friends, your neighbors, your community, in your hometown, and also on the internet, because this is the new public square. This is the new town square. Your school board matters. Your township hall, your city council, your county board of commissioners, your state representative, your state senator. I'm going to have to do a video on this soon because I've realized a lot of my viewers don't even know that they have a state representative and senator. If you want to see mine, go look on my community page and in my YouTube shorts. I'm hoping to have her on this channel rather soon. Let me know in the comments if you'd like my state rep, Jamie Thompson, to come on and talk about stuff. Talk about guns, talk about the Second Amendment. Because when I talk about people, get a hold of your state rep, and they say, well, I already got a hold of my state rep, Representative Wahlberg. Now, this might not mean a lot to all of you, but I'm going to explain. Representative Wahlberg is my United States congressman. So that means this person, and I'm not picking on any one person, I'm just saying, that means this person lives within 100 miles or so of me, because we have the same United States congressman, Wahlberg. But I was talking about a state rep. And I've just realized by reading my comment sections, people will say, my state senator is Mitch McConnell in Kentucky. I think a lot of people don't even know that they have a state representative and a state senator, and that's not good. I'm not judging you for it. I'm just saying that's not good. Most of the people watching right now might know. But I bet you a lot of your friends don't even know they have one. You have to know if you have one before you know if they're doing their job and doing their duty, okay? I think you guys agree. Just don't skip past this stuff. Just because you know, just because you've called them, just because you visited them during their coffee hours, you've sat in on your state legislative sessions. Don't assume that all your friends and family do. Don't assume anything anymore. We got to start with the basics again and talk to people, because this stuff's literally nuts. And for all of you that might be wondering right now, what about this, that? I did a rather informative 12-minute video earlier. I am going to go through some of the nuts and bolts of this rule, but I'm not going to insult your intelligence just by popping up a 293-page PDF and just scrolling through it, because like I think we're beyond the point of just being read to. I really want to talk about like how huge of a problem this is and what we can do. Because just slipping into this darkness of saying there's nothing we can do, we're totally screwed, that's not a good place to be. And we need to have hope. We need to exercise our First Amendment. I saw out of the corner of my eye talking about protests, rallies. Yes, we need to exercise our First Amendment. Absolutely. We need to do a lot of things. And I want you guys to tell me, please. I come here to try to encourage you guys. And you guys encourage me a lot. Please try to encourage each other in the chat. I'm going to read every last word of this afterwards. And you guys probably have awesome ideas I haven't thought of. But the fact of the matter is we literally have to do something. Now, there's some craziness in here. Thanks for the super chats, guys. I'm going to read those in just 1 second. And Linda's keeping track of them for me. I will get to all of them unless Susan does something where sometimes she does disappearing acts. And if that ever happens, please don't think I'm slighting you. Weird stuff can happen on here. So the rule was announced today for immediate release, which is the 13th of January 2023. It's going to go into immediate effect as soon as it is published to the Federal Register. Now, there's a slight delay between sending it to the Federal Register versus them actually publishing it. At the time that I went to the Federal Register just a couple hours ago, I had not seen it published yet. Does that just mean I didn't know how to search good enough? Maybe. But most likely it hasn't been published yet. If I were to guess, it'll probably be published Monday. Maybe later than that. I don't know. Okay? I mean, who knows anything anymore? I don't even know how they could be publishing anything like this. But I don't want to keep going in circles. I just, one more time, have no idea how they... Yeah, you guys get my point, right? And then it will make it where it goes into effect. Now, there's a couple things that people have been talking about online. I've been reading different places and reading my comment sections where there might be some confusion. And I might be confused. Again, none of this is legal advice. Just a regular guy talking about stuff. People say, well, there's an amnesty. I don't see the word amnesty anywhere. People talk about things like, well, the rule doesn't go into effect for 120 days. I actually don't see that either. But what I do read is the rule goes into effect on the date of publication in the Federal Register. Presumably Monday, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't know. Okay. Oh, federal holiday on Monday. Good call. Tuesday? I don't know. Maybe it's there right now, guys. Maybe I'm just not good enough at searching the site. I tried. As far as I know, maybe it's in effect right now. Literally, I don't know. I don't think it's been published yet to the Federal Register. So it pretty much says it right there. I know people would like it to say something else, but this is what it says. The rule goes into effect on the date of publication in the Federal Register. Now, it goes on to say the rule allows for a 120-day period for manufacturers, dealers, and individuals to register tax-free any existing NFA short-barreled rifle covered by this rule. People say, well, what about other short-barreled rifles that don't have braces? Well, since this is about braces, not only braces and other devices, which I'm going to try to touch on in a few minutes. In my opinion, this clearly reaches to actually more than just braces, just so you guys know, especially depending on different types of firearms platforms. And this has to do with braces and other devices. I'm not a lawyer, but by my plain reading of this, of course, this doesn't cover a short barrel rifle that doesn't have a brace, but it's been a question I've had a few times already. And I'm going to talk about in a few minutes how I don't even know how that's legal for them to register tax-free. I have a part of the CFR, part of the codified regulation that I will pull up, and I'll read from this here in just a few minutes. In my opinion, I don't even know how they can legally not collect this tax, actually, but they claim they're going to. Other options include removing the stabilizing brace to return the firearm to a pistol, or surrendering. There's the word. You can surrender. Surrendering covered short-barreled rifles to ATF. Now, keep in mind, not to be confused here, and again, everything, I want to say this one more time because of the world we live in. This is all just my opinions. I'm not qualified to give any legal advice. We're just regular people talking. Regular people that matter, by the way. That's why this is worth talking about. Look, short-barreled rifle, you've your whole life thought of it as one thing. Well, now they're saying that certain pistols with pistol braces are the new short-barreled rifles they're talking about. So, what was formerly a pistol with a brace on it, as soon as this is published, when it goes into effect, is going to be one of these said short-barreled rifles. I think that's important to distinguish because people are saying, but I don't have a short-barreled rifle. I just have a pistol with an SBA3 and these certain stats. Well, not all, but in most cases, that is said short-barreled rifle they're talking about. Basically, the ATF saying, you already have a short-barreled rifle, you just didn't know it yet. After dozens of approval letters saying braces did not reclassify and that you were totally fine, just like the bump stock ban that said not a machine gun in so many cases, but then they just said it was and it's always been and you always had a machine gun. That's what they're doing here. They're saying you always had a short-barreled rifle. It's just now we're going to start this 120-day where you can register it tax-free, quote unquote. Yeah. Don't mistake anything. They're saying it is a short-barreled rifle. You just have this much time where you could register it, according to them, tax-free. The law says something else about that, but again, I don't know. Who am I, right? Now they're going to make this clear. Nothing in this rule bans stabilizing braces or the use of stabilizing braces on pistols. That's something else that might need a little bit of explanation. So they're saying just the brace in and of itself. If you removed it from any type of firearm and you just have a brace and it's not attached to anything, no, it's not going to ban that. Only if it's on what they call a short-barreled rifle. Now they're also saying it doesn't ban the use of stabilizing braces on pistols. Hold on, didn't I just say that they're going to consider them short-barreled rifles, or they're already considering them that? Yes. And there's going to be some criteria they're going to use. They're going to say some models of braces on some firearms are going to be considered a braced pistol still. And you can have them, or maybe only disabled people can have them because they mentioned something about that. I'll get to that in a minute as well. Other ones that have what was formerly known as braces, they're just going to consider those short-barreled rifles. They're going to consider the brace a stock. Yeah, I know. So they're not, yes, they are contradicting themselves. All of this is contradictory. It goes in a complete circle, but they're as ambiguously as possible. They're, I guess, trying or whatever to put these into two classifications. It will still be possible for a stabilizing brace on a pistol to exist, but most, and virtually probably more than most, right, of formerly considered stabilized pistols will now just become short-barreled rifles outright. The word amnesty is not used there. As far as I know, amnesty would be like a presidential power. If you remember President Carter, back to him again. Well, I guess since we're talking about the current former vice president, we may as well talk about Jimmy Carter quite a bit. Two of the worst presidents and former vice presidents we've had. Now, he made an amnesty. There was a lot of people who had fled the country, Canada mainly, and other countries, to escape going to prison for dodging the Vietnam draft. Well, he made an amnesty and said, you all can come back within this period. You won't be prosecuted. I believe that falls under the presidential powers. So I don't think that they can make a true amnesty like that. Although they did do a National Firearms Act amnesty, back in the 60s, it was very complicated how they did it. They're not doing that here. Just so you know. This doesn't just open it up where you can just register for free a traditional or previously classified short-barreled shotgun, rifle, machine gun, silencer, whatever. People have been asking me that. No, this is not an NFA amnesty. They're not using the word anywhere in there. They're just saying that it will be tax-free. But nonetheless, they're going to require these to be registered under the National Firearms Act. And that's where I think the trap comes into place. I'm not sure how they're even going to be able to do this. Hopefully a judge smacks this down soon. Hopefully you guys are not only supporting people in your local community, talking to your friends, holding your local representatives, people in your hometown accountable. That's always the start of it. But we also need to be supporting gun rights groups when we can, like Gun Owners of America. And there's FPC and National Association for Gun Rights. Pick your one that you like. I don't know that I agree with all of them on everything, but there's some that are certainly better than others. This is going to need to be fought in court, okay? Big time. I mean, lack of a fight anywhere else, I don't see any. It's pretty much our only chance. People talk about fighting in other ways. I don't see that right now. I don't think America's ready for that. And if people did start something like that, probably wouldn't be a good idea. We could probably find ourselves actually becoming more tyrannical government. That's a whole nother topic, though, that I have talked about before, and I probably will again soon. Here's where it could be a trap, guys. Look, they're basically asserting, and they're saying, you have a short-barreled rifle with a certain, what used to be called braced pistol. Just keep that in mind. By certain criteria, rather ambiguous criteria. I'll read them again in a second. I read them in my shorter video earlier today. They're saying that the moment that this rule gets published to the Federal Register, it goes into effect, that you already have a short-barreled rifle. Well, hold on a minute. For those of you that are familiar with how the National Firearms Act works, this is going to be like an A or B question, guys. If you want to use a Form 1 to make a short-barreled rifle, just pretend this rule didn't exist. Just look at how the NFA works ordinarily for a Form 1. Form 1ing a short-barreled rifle. Are you A, allowed to make the short-barreled rifle, and then after you made it, apply for a tax stamp? Or B, do you have to apply for the tax stamp first, then once approved, pay the tax, then and only then, after you have the adhesive back stamp affixed on the paperwork and follow all of the rules that are promulgated under that, then you can actually make the short-barreled rifle? A or B? I hope you guys know the answer to this, but I'll tell you real quick. It's clearly B. You have to apply for the tax stamp first. You have to go through all of that stuff. Then, and I'm talking with these unconstitutional laws that we live under. Yes, I agree, guys. All laws repugnant to the Constitution should be null and void. Shall not be infringed means what it says. It says what it means. I know, but in the days we live in now, under these unconstitutional laws, let's just work through the conversation under those laws, right? Okay. So if it's published, I was going to say Monday, but it's a federal holiday, so let's just say it's Tuesday. This is hypothetical. On Tuesday, it's already a short-barreled rifle, but you will be able to apply, presumably, on a Form 1 with a free tax stamp to make it a NFA item, so it will be registered under the National Firearms Act with the provisions that go under that you don't want to be part of, in my opinion. You don't want it registered, okay? You don't want to have to get a permission slip to cross state lines. You don't want to have potentially extra scrutiny. People are going to argue with me on this, but I literally read the statute. And it says that, yeah, actually, they do have the authority to inspect said National Firearms Act item. If I need to bring out the stats and show it to you guys next stream, I will, depending on how many people don't get that. But yeah, that is part of it. Believe it or not. I wish it wasn't. And under the Constitution, they have no right. But guys, we can't keep going in circles on this, or else we can't get through this. Like, yes, we shouldn't have a National Firearms Act. It's unconstitutional. We shouldn't have an ATF. They're unconstitutional. Within the times we're living in, though, that's part of it. Okay. So it's subject to all the provisions and restrictions of a National Firearms Act item. But if you make it first before you have this tax stamp, even if it's free, but there's other law that contradicts this, so I don't know how they can even make it free. Does that mean that you're admitting that you're already committing a felony right now? I don't know. I don't know. If you want to know about the legality of what you're doing, you need to contact your lawyer, and they may or may not have an answer. This isn't legal advice, obviously, but you guys know where I'm heading with this? You don't get to first make the short-barreled rifle, then apply for the tax stamp. But they're saying that many and most of these stabilized pistols will be short-barreled rifles like really soon, in a couple days or so. I don't know. How much do you trust the ATF? I mean, this is the same group that said many times that braces did not change the classification of the firearm. And now they're doing all this. They said a bump stock was not a machine gun. And then they said it is. In fact, they even went more overboard with that under President Trump. It's true. It's true. I wish it wasn't true, but Republicans often are just as guilty as Democrats when it comes to this stuff. And that's unfortunate, but it is true. Here they're saying you can just take the brace off and then the brace won't be affected by anything. A bump stock, you couldn't even do that. You had to completely destroy it or turn it in. They said a piece of plastic that mechanically bump fired. I talked about that last week. Huge rule in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, by the way. The full panel en banc. That's hopefully going to provide excellent case law precedent, not only in that district, but hopefully the Supreme Court takes this up. It's going to take a lot of legal funds. I hope the gun rights groups are ready, which I've supported, have been supporting, several of them. GOA is one of which that I support. So that doesn't sound quite right either. And they're going to ask you to take pictures of it. Well, hold on a minute. If they're going to follow one part of the law, but then ignore other parts, what if they come back and follow the part that says, oh, so you sent us a picture proving that you already violated the NFA before you applied for the tax stamp, so we're going to use your own application you used to try to get the free tax stamp as evidence against you. What do you guys think? Do you trust them that they wouldn't do that? That's a better way to ask it. And I got a comment that I thought was interesting, and I'm going to read it here. I printed it out, okay? And I think it's a good comment because it's something a lot of you guys are thinking about. I slightly disagree with one of the things that the commenter said, and that's fine, but they did put it into context, and I think it's a good comment overall. And I'll tell you guys the part that I'm not quite sure I agree with them on, but it does make sense, and it's logical. And this is from a YouTuber that goes by This Old Trailer. Maybe he's in the chat right now. He said, I agree. This is all unconstitutional. But the NFA is unconstitutional, and it's been law for 90 years. And yeah, I'm in lockstep with that. We shouldn't even have to talk about this, but the NFA has been somehow law for 90 years. We have criminals running the country, and they just don't care anymore. I also agree that we should hold off on doing anything right away. And that's what I had said in my earlier video. I'm not doing anything right now. There's going to be litigation. There could be stays. There could be preliminary injunctions. There could be temporary restraining orders. These are all, court words that are used, certain actions courts can take. Before anyone starts going off the deep end and registering and this and that, we need to, I think, sit back and actually see what's going to happen and see if the courts are willing to smack this down, which thankfully courts on very high levels have been doing with a lot of this kind of stuff. So I'm not giving you guys advice. I'm certainly not advocating anybody to break the law. I ain't doing anything right now. Reserving the right to register it if I want to, right? If I want, reserving within the 120 days, I ain't doing crap. Does that make sense? All right. He says, the fact is that good guys are under attack here and nothing is clearly right or wrong anymore. I know. Following all the rules today can make you a future felon of America. And that's the big principle that's going on right now. Guys, I have to be very careful because we're in the public right now, and anybody and everybody's watching this. I don't want people to break the law. You guys are all responsible to do what you want to do. I would have a smile on my face if it ended up like the bump stock thing where they said they turned in like 3 of them, if you know what I mean. Look, what you do within the 120 days is up to you. And if you need specific legal counsel, I guess you'll have to have the money, which virtually none of us do, to hire a lawyer. I don't even know what they would say right now. This is a mess, to say the very least. This is a mess is actually giving this a compliment. It's that crazy. I don't know. I ain't doing nothing right now. Reserving the right to follow all applicable federal statutes and laws, I ain't doing nothing right now, okay? And then they go on. They said, for those of us that already have NFA items, adding a couple more without the $200 tax might be the easiest answer. It might be the easiest answer, but I don't know if this person's suggesting that, and I'm certainly not suggesting that. But I'm just trying to read it at face value. They said it might be the easiest answer. And if you literally read the words there, I don't want to imply things that aren't said. That's true. It might be the easiest thing for you to do. That's not what I'm recommending you do. You're going to do whatever you want. I'm not an authority over you. I wouldn't tell you what to do. I'm not like that, but it might be the easiest. But then he goes on to say, honestly, at this point, if I didn't already have NFA stuff, I don't think I would. That's why you guys have never seen silencers. You've never seen cool stuff like that on this channel. I mean, you have seen a little bit of stuff like machine guns from me shooting other people's, but I don't collect tax stamps, okay, guys? I collect different things. I would collect United States postal stamps, which I don't really agree with that principle either, but I'm not a stamp collector, so. He said, I will say, if you do decide to, quote, register your pistol as an SBR, you may want to make sure you don't send in pictures with the brace or stock already on it. Remember, they're considering certain braces to be stocks now. I know, it's hard to do because you're like, wait a minute, but they said it wasn't a stock like 37,000 different times, and this one said this one said that. They tried to come after braces when Trump was still in office, then they backed off, then they said they're going to come back again, then they delayed it. I know. To say this is crazy and ambiguous and confusing, again, is still giving this rule too much credit. But they are going to be considering these stocks like any hour, minute, or day now when this gets published in the Federal Register. Immediate effect. This is somebody's opinion. I thought it was a good comment, though. This old trailer, shout out to you. I appreciate you watching the channel, man. Says, they're saying you might want to make sure you don't send pictures with the brace or stock already on it. This might be what they're attempting to trap people with. They don't seem to be saying the 120 days is an amnesty period. Only a time where the $200 will not be charged. And that's true. I don't see amnesty anywhere. You aren't allowed to put the SBR together until you have the paperwork back. Now, keep in mind with all these people, and I know they're going to do it. I know people are going to do it. Right as I said, I ain't doing nothing right now. Let's let this play out in the courts. Let me figure this out. I have to have a general mens rea of committing a crime before I'm a criminal. I don't even understand this thing yet. I don't know if I'll ever understand it. You know what I'm saying? We need to hope our court systems, we sure need to hope that they want to keep America with this, because these courts are really, really going to have to weigh in big time on this. But the American people need to weigh in big time too. And that's what I've been talking about this whole stream. But man, I don't even understand this thing yet. But I know there's people right now as fast as they can saying, I got to get on here. I've already had people blowing up my different inboxes saying, where do I go on the ATF site to register for this? I don't know how to register for it. I want my free tax stamp as fast as possible. Sheep often let themselves be herded to slaughterhouses too. If you've ever worked at a livestock place or a meat processing plant, people are begging. They're blowing me up. How do I comply? I can't. My only frustration is I can't figure out how to comply fast enough. I'm so frustrated with this rule, someone said, and it was in all caps. And I'm like, I am too. And they came back and said, I'm frustrated that I can't comply fast enough. Why can't I comply and get a free tax stamp today? I'm like, hey, look, I'm not a tyrant. I'm not going to tell you what to do, what not to do. But geez, oh Pete, whew, I was popping some of these before the stream. My only problem is I can't get the tax stamp yet. Okay. Be careful, though, guys. Be careful. That's all I want you to do. I care about you guys. Be careful. Tell the people you care about to be careful. This is something you need to be very careful about. This is very serious stuff going on here. And it's very, very confusing. Now, I'm not like a genius, but I'm not dumb either. And the more I try to understand this rule, the less I understand it. Yeah, if that's what's happening to you right now, I get it. Trust me. The more you read this thing, the less you can understand it. How long is it going to take to get a tax stamp? Will you even be able to get this tax stamp no matter how quickly you try to get it within 120 days? I doubt it, because it takes like a year or more for other NFA items to get tax stamps. Never applied for one myself, but that's what my friends that collect tax stamps tell me. Why are we in the year 2022 and collecting a tax stamp is like the coolest thing to do? And all the cool tactical operators that everybody looks up to? It's like a status symbol on YouTube to see who has the biggest tax stamp collection. We dumped tea in the harbor over a tax. I'd rather see the Declaration of Independence be cool again. I'd way rather have Benjamin Franklin be cool again. I mean, Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and James Madison are 1,000 times cooler than any YouTuber. Somehow we're in a society right now where tax stamp collections are the coolest thing to have in a country that dumped tea in the harbor over a tax that was way less imposing than this tax. And don't forget that 10 years in prison, $250,000 fine, that's over this tax. It's all about this tax. It's never been anything other than this tax. These are revenuers running our country, trying to run your soul. I'm not being doom and gloom. No one better not be swallowing that black pill, but we have to realize what the problem is. The second biggest problem right now is the government, which includes the ATF. The ATF is a huge problem, and they're only the second biggest problem. The biggest problem right now in this country is we the people. And I don't like saying that, but I have too much respect for you guys to lie to you, and that is the problem right now. You guys that live in, here's my challenge to all of you guys, okay? And I've gotten to hang out with so many of you in real life. I loved hanging out with you guys in real life, and we're going to do it again. I can't be everywhere, but I can drive to my state capital. It's not easy for me. Gas is not cheap for me. I drive an old car. I'm always wrenching on it to keep it going. And my life's never been financially easy, and I'm glad it hasn't been, because I really get to appreciate things like good, normal people. And I get to appreciate you guys. And I'm glad I'm not rich, and I don't want to be rich, and I know none of you guys are. It's hard, but script and save and get up a couple gallons of gas and get some friends together and start going to your local township hall, your local city hall, your local county board of commissioners, your state house, your state senate, your capitol building. There's a way to do it. And I know it's not easy, but look, guys, here's my challenge to you, and you make this challenge to your friends. I want to go to my state capitol next week. I want to walk around and see what they're doing. I want to talk to my state representative briefly, and I want to walk around and see who's holding what office hours. If any of you guys, just seriously, leave it in the chat, email me, send me a message, whatever. If any of you guys are within Lansing, what day do you want to go? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. Just let me know what day. I was just in my state capitol all day long. Had an awesome day, had an awesome time, because I saw some fighters in there that are fighting. I got to sit with my state representative, Jamie Thompson, representing me in the Michigan House of Representatives. And I've got her back, and I'm holding her accountable both. And I got to meet a lot of state reps for the first time. There's a lot of new ones that I just wasn't aware of before. I saw a lot of good ones, and I saw a lot of bad ones. I saw all of it. The second biggest problem right now is the government. The biggest problem is the people, but this is good, because Since you're not the government, you can't solve that just like inherently. All you can solve is yourself. And this is actually awesome. And I mean this is encouragement. We need to get more people involved with everything. And this does include online. We're in the new town square right now. I wish all of you could sit in my shop and we talk about this, but we can't. So this is town square. Like what we're doing right now matters. We're talking about life. We're talking about things. I want you guys talking to people to get involved. Start local at first. It's the easiest way, and we're actually lucky it's the most effective way. He goes on to continue. He says, be careful. We now live in a country where the government seems to be out to get the good guys. Absolutely. Because good people, and we don't inherently need laws, do we? We mostly just want to be left alone. We're not going to deprive other people of their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness because we wouldn't want someone else to do that to us. We can call it the golden rule. We could call it the 10 commandments if you're a Christian. Many people call it many things. But a lot of us, including myself, I'm way too afraid of God to be messing with people because whatever wrath I could put on people, he could give me infinitely worse than that. And I'm like scared out of my boots of him. So a lot of us have a moral compass. I don't expect all of you to have the same religion as me, but I think you guys know what it means just to be a good person versus an evil person. And good people don't need laws because we don't want to mess with anybody. And bad people don't follow laws. These laws only affect the good law-abiding people and try to change good law-abiding people and turn their whole life upside down by making them a future felon of America. It's true. By sheer definition, since they're criminals means they're not following laws. And it's wrong. And my friend named this old trailer here on YouTube. He's talking about that, and I think he gets it, and I think a lot of you guys get it, and it's time more people get it. Talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, at your church, at your work, walking down the sidewalk, at the park, here on YouTube. The Founding Fathers talked a lot. They talked a lot. When they couldn't talk anymore, and it wasn't enough, there was Lexington and Concord Bridge, but they talked for decades before that. They had to form a consensus. That's what we need to do right now. We need to form a consensus. We need to decide how many of us want America. How many of us believe we can never, ever, ever let this become a communist country? And there's more of us than there are them. That's the crazy part. That's the good news. There's actually more of us than there are them. They just scream the loudest. They unify. When they're trying to destroy America, they're hell-bent to do it. Where most of our kind of people just want to be left alone. And I know that because I want to be left alone more than anybody. I totally get it. I would love just to sit here and be left alone. I would rather not have to know any politicians' names. Besides the fact that it's a beautiful building in and of itself and I enjoy the architecture. Besides that, I'd never want to go to my capital again. Why would I want to? Except for that you can't just do that because they're not going to leave you alone. They're never, ever, ever going to leave you alone until we finally once and for all win this. We have to win. Look, we can't leave. Where else are we going to go? Everyone else in the world says, I came to America because with all of its flaws, it was still better than my country. We lose America, there is going to be nowhere to go. It's the only place left on earth. That's what people from other countries tell me. But yeah, we do seem to live in a government where they're after the good guys. He goes on to say, of course, all this won't matter to the real criminals. Who'll go ahead doing whatever they want and not even be arrested for it. Who knows? Be careful and God bless you all. Well, God bless you too. And I could have read that in 30 seconds, but there was a lot to that. And a lot of you guys have thoughts on this. Please leave them in the chat. I'm looking for wisdom and encouragement too. Guys, you have to do something, okay? Doesn't matter how dumb the other side is, how wrong the other side is. You can support all this by outright supporting it. You can. You can say, I support the jackboot of the government on my neck. And there's some people who proclaim that, and they're gleeful about it. They're gleeful when the governor of Michigan said, thou shalt not buy seeds. Excuse me? Thou shalt not visit loved ones on their deathbed. Excuse me? Some people were gleeful about it. They loved it. Then there's some people that got out literally in the streets, literally at the Capitol, and said, no, enough's enough, shall not comply. But then there's a third kind of person, and that's where most people fall into. And probably not you guys specifically who are listening right now, but I guarantee you a lot of your friends do. A lot of your friends actually support this tyranny just as much as groups like Moms Demand Action, Mayors Against Guns, Bloomberg, Soros. They have all the billionaires. We just have a bunch of broke blue-collar people like me and you. But there's a lot more of us than them. You need to be encouraged by that. So there's the people that outright support it, verbally. There's the people that outright disavow, and I disavow, and I know you do. But the vast majority of the people actually also support this tyranny by literally doing nothing. And that's why evil is prevailing, because there's a lot of good people out there, but there's too many good people doing nothing. Not even talking about it. Not getting involved in politics, because people say, oh, well, I want the guns, but not the politics. You can't have guns without politics. You can't have America without politics. There's always been politics here, whether you want it or not. It's just whether you want to try to change it in a positive direction or just let it steamroll you and march its jackboots over your neck. And they have been marching it over your neck. And that's what this is right here. 293 pages of tyranny, ambiguous tyranny, trying to make tens of millions of people future felons of America. And if you know really good people right now that are literally doing nothing, look, they don't have to change the world. I'm not changing the world. You don't have to. Look, it's not just one thing that you're going to go like that. It took us 240, 50 years to get here. We got a lot to dig ourselves out of. But if they're just doing nothing, like literally nothing, or just barely the minimal, they're actually supporting this. It's not good. And all of the tyranny that are on local levels, national levels, all over the place. It's crazy. Let me read some of those super chats, Linda. I saw some of you guys have been generous. I really appreciate it. And I also appreciate all of your wisdom and encouragement. So if you can cue those up from the beginning. Band Talk just said something, and I'm going to read yours in a second, that kind of, look, when they wrote the Declaration of Independence, they knew that they were going to be able to win, and they had to win at all costs. Thank you. St. V with the member super chat. He said, no more ATF. No more ATF. No more AFT. Thanks, St. V. I appreciate you, dude. Look, at the end, and they said, let facts be submitted to a candid world. They knew it was a risk. They knew it was now or never when they declared that independence. They had already been fighting. And they were already in a tough fight because, see, on July 4th is when the Declaration was actually penned, published. It may have been penned a few days before that, but whatever. It was officially declared on July 4th, 1776, which is Independence Day. Declared our independence from the King of England. They were up against the biggest military superpower in the world. And that's to put it lightly. To say they were the biggest military superpower in the world, yeah, that kind of aborts the definition of the word superpower. They were even bigger than that. And this is where I talked about how politics is downstream from culture, and we have to build a culture. And that's what you guys need to do. You need to look forward to it. This is a really positive conversation I'm trying to have with you guys right now, meaning you actually can affect your own liberty. You need to remember that. And you need to remember how important you are. They basically, to summarize it up, said we have the American people on our side. The colonists that would then become the Americans. They said we have each other's back. We have each other. And they knew how important that was. But they knew nothing was important as having God on their side. They said we had Providence on our side. A whole lot's changed, but really it's all still the same. All we really have right now is each other and Providence. And that's all the founding fathers had. Mateo 1371 with the super chat. Thanks a lot, man. He did the old 223. 223. I thought he was going to do 222, like 222 Swift. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. He says, ooh, FFOA. Now, hold on. He's right. There's a typo on this. Future Felons of America. Let's get rid of the first F and the future. Now it's just Felons of America, right? Like, anyways, all of you watching on replay, you're right. And Mateo's the one that actually designed this, by the way. So there you go. The designer himself, shout out to Mateo. He's allowed to change it. It's no longer Future Felons of America. Just take that first F off of there. Thanks, man. I appreciate it, dude. And all the stuff that you do behind the scenes for the channel, because I can't do it all by myself. James Brandon, what's happening, man? Thanks for the super chat. He said, why don't gun groups organize protests? They do, but I think what you're saying is there's not enough. I know. If 10% of the people upset about Illinois BS bill showed up like Moms Demand Action, it done a lot. Dude, I totally agree, man. And geez, God bless everybody in Illinois right now. It's crazy. Literally crazy. It's terrible. I'm not surprised with the governor. Pritzker. I don't even know how to pronounce his name, okay? But yeah, he's a real beauty, isn't he? In a different kind of way. Speaking of real beauties, I haven't said hello to the people at Susan Wiki. I'd like to welcome all the YouTube employees that are watching tonight and hope you guys enjoy the stream. I know some of you do. Yeah, I know. That's what I was talking about earlier, man. We're on the same page. The other side, they go out and do it, don't they? Oh, yeah, of course. Look, I can't be at everybody's capital. I can't be in everybody's town hall, but yeah, man. Keep up the good fight wherever you're at, and thanks for encouraging us. We do need to do that, and I have been at rallies, and I have been at peaceful protests, and those are very, very important. Those are part of the certain unalienable rights that are endowed by your Creator, and they're confirmed, protected by the government in the First Amendment. Don't forget about your First Amendment protected rights. Marco Polo with a super chat and a channel member. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. He says, these are rough times. Yes. ATF is illegal. We need to write our representatives and senators. Write, call, carry your pigeon, meet them in real life. Yeah, my congressman, okay, if we're going to talk about Congress, which he is a representative, Wahlberg, he has a call that you can get on the list where he'll call and do a virtual town hall over the phone, where you're on there and you can get your question and key in and actually verbally over the phone, make your statements, your question, your whatever. He'll also appear at different events, like maybe he's going to be at Cabela's on a certain date. It's harder, but you can talk to your congressman. State reps, state senators. I know this is a federal issue. I get it. And the ATF makes it very clear in here several times. This is a federal issue. We don't care about states' laws. I know. But this, look, all of this stuff intertwines. We are the United States of America. If we want our states to be able to take the power back from the federal government and rein it in, that's how this government's supposed to operate. Look at what Texas is doing right now, guys, okay? Texas is really battling. They're going toe-to-toe with the ATF. Missouri's written a Firearms Protection Act. I might have butchered the name of it, but you guys know what I mean. Missouri wrote something talking about basically Fed boys not in our states. I mean, it matters. Let me know. Does anyone want to go to Lansing with me next week? We're not going to do anything crazy. I'm not even there to protest. Let me know. I'll go to Lansing next week if anyone wants to go. Lansing, Michigan. My state representative's name is Jamie Thompson. I've got her back. My state senator's name is Joe Bellino. I have his back. Your state rep might be somebody that you don't have their back, and that's fine to go meet them too. And you should meet them too. I want to remind you guys of that, okay? If you've got a good one, you need to support them. Get behind them because they represent you in your state legislature. If they're contrary to the Constitution and they're contrary to what you want representing, then you need to go talk to them too, actually. I know that sounds crazy, but if enough people do, and it has to start somewhere, you can't say, oh, well, I can never fill this bucket with sand, so I won't even put my grain in there. Somebody has to do it first. Somebody has to do something. Call, visit, write, go to their coffee hour, call their staff, okay? And say, I would like to schedule a meeting face-to-face with my representative, and walk in there to your anti-gun state representative and say, I do not consent to any gun control in Michigan. It's repugnant to the Second Amendment. It's repugnant to Article 1, Section 6 of the Michigan Constitution. In your state, you're going to have to look up your applicable section of your Constitution and tell them, I don't consent to being governed like this. And I do have friends, and I am talking to people in my hometown, in your district. And, you know, if you can't represent us the way we need to be represented, we're going to see to it that you won't be sitting in the House much longer. We're going to get you primaried if that's what it takes. We're going to beat you in the general election. I'm not giving you guys a script, but you get the point, right? Yes, don't pretend I saw this out of the corner of my eye. Hold that there, Linda. I just saw this out of the corner of my eye, and that's what I was trying to say. Our friend West Eli, talk to them, but be careful how you word things. Make sure they can't pretend you're threatening them, because some of them would. Oh, yes. It's the times we live in, but don't be afraid to go look your anti-gun Democrat rep or Republican rep. They can be anti-gun too in the eye and say, no, you do not have my consent to govern me like this. To me, that's perfectly appropriate to do, and I think that's okay. And I think we should do that. So, bend over with a super chat. Thank you. I appreciate the generous super chat. This is an encouraging message. I liked when I saw this one pop up earlier. It said, no black pills allowed as long as Christ is king. Well, that's an encouraging message for me, and I hope that encourages a lot of you. I know some of you guys are going to draw your strength and inspiration from something else. I'm not here to judge your soul, but for me, that's where I draw my inspiration from. So I really appreciate that. Thank you, Bend Over, for the super chat, because that's literally the only like physical way I can keep this channel going. But I really thank you even more than that for that message. Thank you. In a second here, I know I have a few more chats that I want to read. I'm going to go over a couple of the changes and a couple of things that I thought were kind of notable in this thing. For those of you that are watching on replay, I appreciate you guys watching on replay. And I know there's always a couple comments where somebody's like, dude, why won't he just get to the point? Where does it say on page this loophole or whatever? That's not what these streams are about. I put up a 12-minute video for people that only have a few minutes, right? And I just want to talk about stuff and truly what's going on, because this is all about braces right now, but it's also about way, way more than just braces right now. Looks like I had another one here. Band Talk, thanks so much for the generous super chat, dude. You've been a longtime supporter, and I really appreciate you, dude. And your friendship as well, more importantly than any financial support, obviously. He says, the way to fix anything is to break the cycle of fear in this country. People are afraid, and that's the problem. When people fear the government, there's tyranny. But when the government fears the people, there's liberty. A lot of people are afraid right now. So people are too afraid to stand up against evil. Historically, waking up from that generally isn't pretty. But God on our side, I hope we can figure it out. And I read the very last part that said God on our side. And I got into that little rant before I started reading the super chats. But yeah. I know people are scared, but that's the definition of a tyrannical government. When you're scared of a 293-page document, that the more you read it, the more confused you are. When people are afraid of something or don't understand something, rather, and it's foreign to them, it's a lot more likely they'll be afraid of it. That's been the height of almost all the propaganda in this country. Is you take something that someone doesn't understand, it's foreign to them, they don't know much about it, and you instantly make them afraid of it. And you make it where people are they just start hating each other so much that while we're out fighting about stuff that shouldn't matter at all, that doesn't matter at all, they're coming in from the backstretch with 293 pages of this. If half the people that are worried about what color shirt that I wear on a given stream contacted their representatives and got involved in their hometown, we'd be a lot better off than we are right now. I know people like to complain about everything they can think of, but let's start focusing some of that energy towards this crap, not towards each other. We need to have each other's back right now, like we never have before. James Brandon, thanks for another super chat, man. He says people have concerns about anonymity and planning protests. I agree. Which is why I think local 2A advocates should watch for any anti-gun rallies and show up times 10. You know, that's interesting because we were doing a pro-gun rally at the Capitol, the Michigan State Capitol in Lansing, I'd say about 2 years ago now. A lot of my friends were there, my friends from 2A Patriot. They gave me that big 2A logo on the wall. We were having a rally there, a peaceful protest about the Second Amendment. Oh, yeah. We had, I don't remember which organization it was, some form of Antifa or similar to it. They showed up right there. And they busted right into the middle of our crowd and they formed a circle and they did this whole like weird, like voodoo ceremonial. It just gave me like this weird vibe. Like I'm not trying to impugn any of their souls personally, but I could just see evil in their eyes. You know what I mean? I saw evil in a lot of people's eyes during not only that protest, when they came back to counter protest. And that's what James Brandon's talking about. Because as you said in your previous comment, you already know the other side. They do it. They've been a lot more effective at it than us. But they showed up, and I don't know how to explain it, guys. I'd like to just be a logical person and not just like, have like run on emotions and my feelings. But there's certain things that there's only one way to explain it other than it's just that feeling. I can just see and feel evil in some people's eyes. And I saw that there that day. Now I went to my state capitol this Wednesday, not for a protest, but to stand by my state representative and to have her back because she's promised to have the back of the Second Amendment and the people in her district in Michigan. When I was there, I saw a group of people that are representing their districts. And I saw evil in a lot of their eyes too. That's where I'm telling you guys, you have to confront evil on all levels. People that are evil in office who want to be contrary to a government of the people, by the people, for the people, and people that want to be tyrannical over your rights. You have to spread the word about those people in your area, wherever it is. People that live in big cities, they can't all be evil, can they? Or do they just run around with their head down and say, we don't care, blah, blah, blah. So they always elect Democrats. Well, that's to change somewhere, somehow. And I looked at this. And I hope to have her on this show soon so you guys can meet her a little bit, the best we can, virtually, whatever, I want to have her as a guest so you guys can get to know her better. But I'm like, man, this is a brave lady. Look. She was involved in all the grassroots stuff 2 years ago. She was probably at that same rally I'm talking about when they showed up and Antifa did that circle. And I just got that, we have to prevail over this evil. But I looked over on the other side of the aisle and I don't know how else to explain it, but I just saw evil and I felt evil. And I said, oh my gosh, this lady's literally been thrown into the lion's den. Like, it'd be great if all 70,000 of her constituents were here standing up for the Second Amendment and all of our natural God-given rights. But since so many people just want to be left alone, I need to be here right now. That's what I mean by we need to get behind the good people. There's people just like me and you that have decided enough's enough. I have to run for office. And there's some people that are actually doing it, saying, I have to get in there and actually cast this vote because enough's enough. I'm tired of it. And a lot of these people are thrown in the lion's den. And geez, oh Pete's, we have to have their back. And then hold the people accountable that are trying to evoke all this tyranny. B. Joseph with the super chat. Thank you. I appreciate it. Says, I purchased an AR, got delayed. 30 days passed. Had to renew the 4473, got delayed again. Jeez, oh Pete's, man. 2 days later, it finally went through. I'm in Michigan. Look, I need to go pick up a pistol for review. I was going to do it today, but this broke. Now I'm going to do it tomorrow. My local gun shop owner, Supermatch GNA. Awesome place if you're in southeastern Michigan. He's like, well, I'm actually over at St. Charles Church for a big fundraiser dinner thing with the community, you know, which is awesome. Be part of the community, whether it's at your church, your gun shop, your wherever. Give me ideas in the chat, guys. Where else do we hang out? I'll get delayed. I'll get delayed when I go in there tomorrow. Never got delayed in my life. Suddenly got delayed every time now. Now, I'll usually get approved much sooner than 30 days, but I get it, man. There's no rhyme or reason. Nothing changed on my record. Nothing. It's just happening. Try not to freak out, guys. Now, I think I know why, because it's just been relayed recently, or leaked rather recently, that their records are missing millions of entries for the NICS, you know, checks. They're missing millions and millions of entries, so they don't know who's who or what. Yeah, go figure. The government sets up a tyrannical background check system, and then they screw it up. Well, of course. The government screws up anything it touches, obviously. So, man, that's a crazy story. I'm glad it finally went through. A right delayed is a right denied. I'm glad you're still alive right now. What if you would have needed that rifle 32 days ago? When seconds matter, police are only minutes away. And when you need an AR-15 today and you have to wait 32 days, that might be 31, 32, 28. Pick your days too long. Sorry to hear that. Hopefully you enjoy the AR, though. To all of you who have Democrat friends that own an AR-15 and say, from my cold dead hands, tell them they need to call their Democrat rep, by the way. I know of a district that's right next to mine in Michigan. My Representative Thompson won by hundreds of votes, less than 1,000. The district next to mine, the Democrat, won by even a lot less than that. I know a lot of people live in that district, and they're like, here's my 10th AR-15 that I've bought this month. There's some people that do buy them, but they have better jobs than me, right? Here's my 10th AR-15 I bought this month from my cold dead hands. They're a union card carrying member. I've had some union members say, I vote however I want. I do however I want. I'm friends with many people in the union, by the way. Don't think I'm knocking unions. I've had people say that. And some of the most conservative friends I know are in unions. I've had other union people saying, from my cold dead hands, I just bought my 10th AR this month, but I still have to vote Democrat because I'm in the union. That's what they've told me. A lot of people have told me that. Okay, go into your Democrat rep and say, I may be in the union, so for that reason I voted for you, but I own AR-15s. And if you think about passing any of these gun bans in Michigan, Illinois, whatever your home state is, Colorado, Arizona, wherever. And for those of you that said, that's why I live in such and such southern state, and it'll never happen here until it does. Every state's going to be under attack. And the more we divide each other, the quicker they're going to come to your state, no matter how conservative you think it is now. But call up that Democrat rep or senator in your state and say, no. Nope. You're going to lose a big chunk of your voting blocks. That's very, very important in every state. Find those swing district, those vulnerable Democrats that are appealing to reasonable or moderate Democrats, whatever. And I already know when I said that, you guys are like, there's no such thing as a moderate Democrat. I get that sentiment, but I do know people in real life that would self-proclaim themselves as moderate Democrats. Okay, I had a couple notes here because I did want to touch on a few things. I already said they got rid of the Form 4999. I think what they replaced it with might possibly be worse. I mean, which one's less worse? Whatever. None of this is good. There's nothing good in this stupid thing. And I don't even understand it right now, but the more I try to understand it, the worse it gets. Okay. Meaning of terms. This is the part I'm talking about. So look at this. Again, not a lawyer, but you guys tell me. Look at this. This is page 288 out of this document. Now, to me, I'm seeing, for the reasons discussed in preamble, 27 CFR parts 478 and 479 are amended as follows. Well, hold on a minute. Look at this. Authority 5 USC, 552A, 18 USC, 847, 921. This is law they're amending, right? This is congressionally passed law. Okay. I'm asking in case there's some super genius Supreme Court justice in the chat right now, or the equivalency thereof. This is law. See this? When it talks about CFRs and USC, United States Code, okay, codified regulations. So for all of you that are like, this is not a law, they didn't change the law, I get it. I get it. Trust me. My purity standards are this. I'm going to make it very clear, and this is how I'm always have been, and I always will be. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. If it doesn't comply to that, it's all unconstitutional. All laws repugnant to the Constitution should be void. I agree with Marbury v. Madison. However, this law is on the books. And if you're amending law and you're adding things to laws and you're rechanging the written words of CFR, U.S. Code, USC, this is them right in front of your face, the executive branch that can only execute the law. This is them legislating, in my opinion. If you see it differently, let me know in the chat. But the number one comment I keep getting no matter what is the ATF can't write laws. I agree they can't write laws, but they're literally... And people are telling me right now that they're not laws. Okay, I'm going to hold this here one more time. What is this then? Authority 5 USC 552A. Look, this is semantics. This shirt's not blue because this pen's actually blue. But wait, this pen isn't blue because this is blue. Look, it's different shades of things, but when they come to your door to enforce this here, make sure your dog's in order. Hopefully you have good legal counsel because you'll be facing 10 years in prison, $250,000 fine for not paying a tax. It might be a trap if you try to do this. If you try to comply with this, you might end up getting in trouble. I don't know. You tell me. Okay. I mean, if they can't do anything that everyone says they can't do, then they can't. I mean, but they are. They are. And I don't know where to go with this because it's not productive to go in circles all night, but I know they can't make laws, guys. I know, and they can't adjudicate their own rules that aren't laws, and no gun control can exist at all because of shall not be infringed, like literally. But they do, and they are. Unless or until a court smacks them down. That's why I believe this is so unconstitutional. And I get it, guys. They can't do it, meaning it's unconstitutional. I completely agree. But simply saying they can't do this, therefore they aren't doing it, there's two different things. Are doing something, whether they're allowed to or not, is completely different than just they can't, therefore they're not. No, you can literally physically do something that you're not legally allowed to do. We know that. That's the definition of criminal. Physically doing something, but they're not allowed to do it. But there was a gun-free zone on the door, and he walked right past it. Yeah, because people do what they do as long as people let them do it. So, I don't know. I know laws are based on semantics, and I don't like semantics, but that is... 27 CFR 478 and 479 are amended as follows. The authority citation for 27 CFR Part 478 continues to read as follows. Authority 5 USC 522A semicolon 18 USC 847, 921 to 931 semicolon 44 USC 3504H. Number 2 and 478.11. Revise the definition of rifle to read as follows. Okay. 1. For purposes of this definition, the term designed or redesigned, made or remade, and intended to be fired from the shoulder shall include a weapon that is equipped with an accessory, component, or other rearward attachment. Example, a stabilizing brace. Hold on a minute. That means it's not only limited to braces. Component or other rearward attachment, as an example, a stabilizing brace. It doesn't say only stabilizing braces here. They're clearly talking about and other things. I think it's pretty obvious by reading through this, a couple of the other things they're talking about. I'll get to that in 1 second. That provides surface area that allows the weapon to be fired from the shoulder. You could technically fire anything from the shoulder if it had any amount of surface area at all. I mean, it might bend or whatever, but I could put a coffee stirrer on the back of a pistol and literally put the coffee stirrer, humor me here, with some scotch tape, duct tape, for all you hillbillies out there. Shout out to all the hillbillies out there. People have called me one before, and I take that as a compliment. You duct tape the coffee stirrer and you put that up to your shoulder. Does it have a surface area? Well, certainly it does. And can it be fired from the shoulder? Certainly. So this could mean anything. You tell me what you want it to mean. Indicates that the weapon is designed, made, and intended to be fired from the shoulder. Number 2, when a weapon provides surface area that allows the weapon to be fired from the shoulder, the following factors shall also be considered. Okay, so there's a little more to it. Shall also be considered in determining whether the weapon is designed, made, and intended to be fired from the shoulder. And then it goes on to the subsections. I, whether the weapon has a weight or length consistent with the weight or length of similarly designed rifles. We are going to find a chart on page 115. Let me breeze through here to 115. This is 293 pages. I have heavy-duty stapler, and it won't staple 300 pages together, so I had to put it in 2 separate bindings. There's a chart here, and it's going to show you, it's several pages long, the typical weights and lengths and all of that of different rifles. So they're basically saying it can't have the weight or length that's consistent with what a regular rifle is of the appropriate cousin to the pistol. The next criteria, whether the weapon has a length of pull measured from the center of the trigger to the center of the shoulder stock or other rearward accessory. So we're back to that again. It's not just braces that have now been determined as shoulder stocks, but other things. And they do talk about something in there, whether it's necessary. We'll get to that in 1 second. That's coming up in 1 minute here. Component or attachment, including an adjustable or telescoping attachment with the ability to lock into various positions along a buffer tube, receiver extension, or other attached method that is consistent with similarly designed rifles. The next criteria, whether the weapon is equipped with a sight or scope with eye relief that require the weapon to be fired from the shoulder in order to be used as designed. So if you have a scope where if you had it in close and you could acquire, right? If you looked at the objective, you could acquire the reticle only here, but if you were to bring it out like how you'd fire a pistol out in front of you with one hand, that's technically the definition of a pistol. If you could no longer see it anymore because the eye relief was too far, that's going to work against you, and that's going to be a factor to make it into a short-barreled rifle rather than a pistol. Okay. Whether the next one, whether the surface area that allows the weapon to be fired from the shoulder is created by a buffer tube, receiver extension, or any other accessory, component, or other rearward attachment that is necessary for the cycle of operations. Here's a quick example. The AR and its variants requires the buffer tube. That's actually changing now, though. Think about this. Has historically and in most cases still requires a buffer tube, except for now they have ARs without a buffer tube that's required. The fact that these now exist, is that going to make it where no buffer tubes are required? I don't know. Look for another. These are all slippery slopes. I might be a year or two ahead of myself on this, but if this is allowed to stand, watch for this. You heard it first on 2A EDU. 2 years ago, you'll tell yourself. 2 years from now, when they say, nope, actually, a buffer tube is not necessary anymore for the cycle on an AR, because they actually exist right now that don't need one anymore. However, the way I think to interpret this right now, in my opinion, not legal advice, since the AR typically requires, okay, a buffer tube, that's okay. But an AK doesn't. You guys have seen it before where you can put the thing on the back of your AK receiver. There's a cover plate generally. If it's stamped, if it's milled, it's just the back portion of the milled monolithic receiver. And you can put what's called the pig nose. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's called a pig nose adapter. And this gives you the female threads where you can screw in an AR buffer tube and then attach an SBA3 or another brace like a Shockwave or whatever. An AK doesn't need to have anything protruding from the back for it to operate. So on the plain reading of this, it wouldn't be just that your AK pistol and many, many others, not just this. Think many others. Scorpion Evo. You guys are probably naming 100 right now, and please do. Okay. They're arguing that if it's not necessary for the cycle of operations, you can't have anything sticking out from the back of it. So in my opinion, by reading this, if this is something you're really eager to comply with or whatever your motivations are for carrying, one more time, my opinion, not legal advice. Okay, guys, I don't want anyone getting in trouble. You're all very intelligent people and need to decide for yourself what you're going to do or not do with any of this. I just heard someone say, or not do with it. That's on you, not me. I'm not a cop. I'm not going to investigate you. I don't care what you do. With that said, you probably can still have a buffer tube on the back of your AR, but without a brace, and it won't be. But it doesn't just say braces. It says braces or, well, equipped with an accessory component or rearward attachment. Example, a stabilizing brace. The way I'm reading this and the whole whether it's necessary for the cycle, in my opinion, by reading this, you can't just put one of those pig nose adapters and screw in an AR buffer tube, even if it has no brace on it at all. They will want to reclassify that if it meets other criteria as a rifle. Do you guys read the same way? A short-barreled rifle. It's not just braces. That's the thing. If it was just braces, it literally would have said, it's just braces. It would have said, and intended to be fired from the shoulder, shall include a weapon that is equipped with a stabilizing brace. That's what it would say. They could have put that if they wanted to. They didn't want to put that there. They said an accessory component or other rearward attachment. Example, a stabilizing brace. Let me know. I could be wrong on that. But I don't think I am. But I could be. Whether the weapon, okay, the eye relief, I already did that. The manufacturers, this is really crazy, these next two things. The manufacturer's direct and indirect marketing and promotional materials indicating the intended use of the weapon. So hold on a minute. I talked about earlier having a general mens rea, or just as a mens rea, a criminal intent, right? That's a rough translation of mens rea. I thought that for me to have a criminal intent, I had to have a criminal intent. For me to have a good intent, I have to have a good intent. Doesn't my intent have to be my intent? I thought intent is one of the most personalized things ever. Apparently not anymore, not necessarily anyways. The manufacturer's direct and indirect marketing and promotional materials indicating the intended use of the weapon. So if they're marketing it that you can fire it from the shoulder, I guess it's not good enough anymore to say that you never intended to fire it from the shoulder. If they marketed it as such, I guess that's what it is now for you too. Apparently, that's what it says. The manufacturer's direct and indirect marketing and promotional materials indicating the intended use of the weapon. And now they're going to look at what people in your hometown at the range are going to do. Maybe what some of your favorite YouTube channels are doing. Ones that haven't gotten nuked yet. That's why you guys need to make sure you're following me on locals. Probably not, but probably 50-50. I could be nuked out of orbit tomorrow. Who knows? Who knows? I think I'm following all the rules on YouTube. I'm sure other people that thought they were are gone. Some of my favorite channels have been nuked real recently. Follow me on locals, guys. It's a censorship-free site. But anyways, some of your favorite YouTubers might be using braces in certain ways. The Man in the Moon might be using it in a certain way and information demonstrating the likely use of the weapon in the general community. So hold on a minute here. If everybody is parking in a no parking zone, but my car's still in the garage, I could get a parking ticket because everyone else is illegally parked? I'm still standing on the sidewalk. Everyone else crosses it during a red pedestrian light, and I get a jaywalking ticket because I didn't. Well, that's only Ashley Babbitt's mom, actually. So actually, yeah. Information demonstrating the likely use of the weapon in the general community. I mean, they got rid of the worksheet, guys. But geez, oh, Pete. Does this? Oh, this is crystal clear. Clear as mud. Clear as mud was the worksheet. This is clear as diarrhea. Not to gross anybody out, but I'm grossed out just looking at this thing. I don't know. This is the main parameters now, okay? These are the definitions. Okay? These are the definitions that are in the, you know what I mean? It's not a law, it's only a codified regulation, and it's not a law, it's only the United States Code. I get it, guys. I don't know. That's why I'm not a lawyer. I don't want to be one either. This is not a law, but it's updating the definitions in a CFR under the authority of a USC. Codes aren't laws, regulations aren't laws aren't laws, up isn't down isn't up, black isn't white, and white isn't black until white is black, and black is white. Gray doesn't exist. This is really a black hat I'm wearing right now. I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize and national pressure. I mean, really? Let's go for a ride in the Corvette. We can't. It's too engulfed in classified documents. I mean, geez, oh, Pete. Don't worry about that. Nothing to see here. Somebody might have put something on the back of their pistol, and someone else in the community had an intended use for it. Yes. There was some more crazy stuff I didn't like here. Shall collect the $200 tax. Let me read about this real quick. I don't know if this is law or if it's not law, but this is section 479-208 of a CFR. Okay. I'm just going to read a little bit here. Subpart E. This is due with the National Firearms Act, talking about tax stamps and all of that. Subpart E, tax on making firearms. 479.61, rate of tax. Now, we're going to hear the word shall here in a minute. And shall has a very specific meaning. That means it's not optional. Like when they said the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, that means it's not a suggestion, it's a direct mandate, right? Well, this being written into a law, this is what shall means. Anytime shall is in a law, it means you shall. There's no other option. I'll keep that in mind. Let me go back and read this real quick here. Okay, the rule allows for a 120-day period for manufacturers, dealers, and individuals to register tax-free any existing NFA SBR covered by the rule. That's what it says here. Here's what the CFR says. Rate of tax, except as provided in this subpart, there shall be levied, collected, and paid upon the making of a firearm, a tax at the rate of $200 for each firearm made. This tax shall be paid by the person making the firearm. Payment of the tax on the making of a firearm shall be represented by a $200 adhesive stamp bearing the words, and in quotes, National Firearms Act. The stamps are maintained by the director. Okay, there's another sentence that's germane to here. 479.62, in my opinion, not a lawyer, but look this up. Application to make. A, general. No person shall make a firearm unless the person has filed with the director a completed application on ATF Form 1. It goes on down further. A remittance in the amount of $200 with the application in accordance with the instructions on the form. It mentions shall and $200 like 6 different times here. So the law says you shall pay $200, not maybe you can. It would be nice if you did. Look, it's unconstitutional to have to pay a tax stamp. Shall not be infringed means this is repugnant to the Constitution, and the whole NFA needs to be null and void. Don't mistake, I'm not mincing my words here. But within this law that's been allowed to stand 90 years, the law that should be gone, repeal the NFA, the most unconstitutional thing probably that's on the books in this whole country. I'm serious. I love all of our rights, but the Second Amendment is there, not for if, but for when they come for all the rest. Therefore, making this probably the most tyrannical law on the books. And I say probably because a lot of laws are very tyrannical. Look, this law that shouldn't even exist says shall $200, and they're even violating this tyrannical law and saying you don't have to pay the $200. shall not be infringed. Before you get frustrated, just remember, guys, it's good to be frustrated and it's good to be angry about this. You should be angry about this. However, you need to channel some of that energy and try to look at positive things. Focus on your friends, focus on your family, focus on your hometown. The more mad you get about this, you need to get a little bit more fire in your belly, fire in your eyes, and start trying to do something about this. I'm being dead serious. I don't know what kind of conundrum they're going to get in with this, okay? What if this happened? And this is a total hypothetical. I don't know. This is just literally me asking you guys, what if this happened? What if they said here, you can get this free tax stamp? And then you hurried up and gleefully registered. The most common question I'm getting is, how do I get this? I want this tax stamp. If I get a tax stamp on my brace pistol, can I then just put a stock on it later? I don't know. Don't understand this right now. I'm not doing anything right now, okay? What am I supposed to do right now? Right this minute as I sit here, I'm hanging out with you. But I'm not doing anything right now. Like this guy said, our friend, this old trailer on YouTube. He's a commenter. He might have a channel. Go check it out. I just liked his comment. He's saying, be careful. We live in a government where it seems they're out to get the good guys. He goes on to say, hold on a minute. Before you send them a picture, you're supposed to have already acquired the tax stamp before you can build it. There's lots of stuff in here that I think could be a trap. What if they say, all right, trap, you just admitted that you made it before you got the tax stamp. You tried to get a free tax stamp. Federal law doesn't allow you to get a free tax stamp. Now you're in trouble for tax stamp, whatever it would be, evasion, I guess, right? I don't know. There's a whole section in this CFR talking about that too. If someone tries to evade the tax stamp. Well, evading the tax stamp, that's where your dog, your family, I mean, look at Randy Weaver, okay? That was all over a stamp. That was over $200. His dog, his son, his wife. Look at David Koresh and the Branch Davidians. That was over a stamp. This postage stamp has killed many, many people. The government, let me be quite frank about this. The government has killed many, many people over them not having a stamp, an adhesive piece of paper. They put that flammable explosive gas that was filled with huddling and cowering women and children in Waco, Texas, and they burned them alive over a stamp. Before you dismiss this as it's just a stamp, look at Waco and Ruby Ridge over what these people, these thugs, will do over a stamp. They will kill whole families and whole villages of people over a stamp. While they laugh at the Second Amendment and they spit on the Constitution, this stamp is probably the most highly revered thing. They worship this stamp like it's a golden calf. Being serious. This stamp matters, quite frankly, more than anything matters to these people. Revenuers. Look up revenuer if you went to public schools. Look up prohibition. I don't know. You're going to apply for a tax stamp with a picture of something that you were supposed to have the stamp affixed, an adhesive stamp. It's not enough actually to buy the stamp. If your stamp loses its adhesive and is not affixed, they could come after you anyways. It's not only a golden calf to them, but it has to be polished in a certain way. Or it's still not enough. Nothing's ever enough. And when the bump stock ban came through, people said, but I don't like bump stocks. But it wastes ammo, but I don't care. And they said, that's cool. The people are fine with that. All right. Now let's go to frames and receivers. They complained on the internet, but I guess they're fine with that too. And then they went to this. When are they going to stop? Here's my answer. They're never, ever going to stop. Until the people say, you shall stop. You do not have the consent of the governed. You shall not govern us. I mean, That's what Thomas Jefferson wrote in his 30s as a fairly young man. And people are scared right now, and I know the founding fathers were scared then too, but they wrote the King of England for redress of grievance, and he ignored. They met in the taverns. They met in their hometowns. They met in the public square. And they talked about all of this stuff. And this country was founded on the culmination of stuff that they talked about. They weren't following the doctrine of the King of England. They wanted to start a new country where the country would only run at the consent of the governed. So the answer is, how much more of this are they going to do? I guess it depends on how much the governed consent. And there was a saying that the left used to use. Do you guys remember this? It was called silence is violence. They've taken a lot of our sayings away from them, and I think we need to take that back from them and take it away and use it. Silence is violence, actually. Because the ATF with their jackboots are violent. And look what they've done over this adhesive postage stamp. Waco, Ruby Ridge, many, many others. Many others. You're either part of the violence and you're part of the problem, and that's obvious, or you're standing up against it, or you're silent. And in that case, silence is violence. Because evil's prevailing because too many good men are doing nothing, and you can't just be quiet anymore. I know you guys know that, but I'm trying to encourage you. Do it in your own way. Do it more articulately than me. Do it in better than me. I'm just trying to encourage you guys to talk about these things to people. Go to your state capitol. Go to your county board of commissioners. Go to your town hall, city hall, township hall, village, pub, wherever it happens to be. If you're literally doing nothing, you're just as guilty as the people doing it at this point. I don't see much of a difference. This stuff's very, very violent. This is people with a postage stamp willing to kill people over a stamp. I mean, it looks like a postage stamp, but it says $200 on it. People asked me a question earlier about, can you add a longer barrel? I do see something here, not legal advice, but it would lend me to personally believe so. Page 222 and 223. If it has a longer barrel, it's no longer governed by the National Firearms Act, in my opinion. So they're talking about people with certain state laws. See, this is all people saying reasons why this doesn't work. And they're basically saying, yeah, for these reasons and these reasons, I don't care. This is someone saying that if they have a firearm with a 16-inch barrel, it'd be prohibited under their state law as an assault weapon. Well, there you go. And some state laws, by the way, don't allow short-barreled rifles. So, yeah, if you live in California and they don't allow short-barreled rifles and you try to get a free tax stamp, I think it's a trap, in my opinion, by the way. But if you try to get the free tax stamp, can you guys believe it? The most common question I'm getting is, how do I get the free tax stamp quicker? Blowing my mind. Anyways, you probably couldn't have that in California, right? Because if you can't have an SBR in California, whether the tax stamp's free or not, if it somehow isn't a trap, even though I think it is, then California is going to come after you because you can't have SBRs in California. If I'm wrong, tell me, but that's what a viewer allegedly from California told me earlier. It talks about the executive order focuses on the direct effects of federal law in relationship to the distribution of power between the states themselves and the federal government, not whether the change in federal law may have an incidental effect for individuals of consequence of state laws where those individuals reside. So I went through here and said the department also acknowledges that some states may regulate a firearm with a 16 or longer inch barrel. But where's the exact part? I'm kind of running out of time here, but it basically says that, yeah, if it has a 16-inch barrel on it, and it would also have to be 26 inches OAL for a rifle. I know there's braces on shotguns too, okay? That would be 18 inches, but look, if it's 26-inch overall length and 16-inch or longer barrel, then it doesn't fall under the purview. Okay, right here. Here's where it says it. I.e., permanent removal of the stabilizing brace or removal and replacement of a barrel of less than 16 inches with a longer barrel. Making these kinds of modifications will bring firearms outside the scope of the NFA. So there you go. Okay. Page 221. That was the page right before that. This is interesting. They're talking about how they don't want to protect your safety. It says the department acknowledges, this on the top of page 221, the department acknowledges that some individuals typically use two hands to hold and shoot pistols, and that holding a pistol with two hands can make shooting more accurate or enjoyable. I would argue safer as well. The fact that stabilizing braces makes firing a standard pistol more accurate or more enjoyable is irrelevant. Regardless of a particular individual's intent to fire a firearm with one hand, the relevant inquiry under the best interpretation of the statutory provision is whether the objective design characteristics and other evidence associated with the firearm configured with a stabilizing brace indicate that the firearm is designed, made, and intended to be fired from the shoulder. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, literally crazy. They don't care. No matter what people said in these, they're like, okay, so we read this letter and we don't care. Now, they did pull a fast one, and they said, well, a lot of you said the worksheet 4999 was too ambiguous and this and that. They're like, you're right. So now we're going to come up with these other criteria that to me are even more ambiguous than that. Like, I read them earlier. You guys can go back and rewind if you just joined. But geez, oh Pete. Like anything off the back of something that's, I guess, not an AR, but that'll be changing too because ARs really don't need a buffer tube anymore. And no, I'm not telling the ATF something they don't already know, guys. Anytime I say something like that, people are like, shh, don't tell the ATF that there's ARs that don't need buffer tubes. They know they do because you guys know that anything that's commercially sold in the U.S. has to go through approval for them. By literal provable definition, they know. I shouldn't have to say that, but I felt the need to because anytime I say something like that, I'm like, well, technically the AR doesn't, quote, need a buffer tube in all instances anymore. People are like, dang it, 28EDU, you're going to be the reason they ban this because they don't know about those. Yeah, 101. Any firearm that's sold commercially in the United States, the ATF knows about every one of them, and they literally know how they work. Like, by sheer definition, they have to be formed intrinsically of how it works before it's going to be approved to be sold in the USA. So, there you go. A lot of people have said it's going to be an ADA violation, and they throw this little catch-all in there that basically says, oh, well, handicapped people can still use these appropriately or whatever. I'm heavily paraphrasing. I think they're trying to give themselves an out and trying to make it harder to sue them under the ADA, which is the Americans with Disabilities Act. So they acknowledge that, and they're trying to, I think, skirt around litigation as far as that goes. It appears you can remove your brace, in my opinion, not legal advice. It appears you can remove your brace. This is according to the ATF and what they're interpreting or redefining or out and out changing the federal law to say, or the CFRs. The gun community thrives in semantics so much. If I don't literally say this every time, the U.S. code, the CFR, they'll say, hold on, we got you to AEDU. It's not technically, specifically, it ain't the law. Them changing the USCs and CFRs. I know you guys aren't like this, but a lot of the gun community is like that. I'm lucky that most of you are pretty cool. Look. They're changing this stuff right now to I don't even know exactly what. But hopefully, and that's my hope, that the courts are going to get involved in this heavily. And it's my anticipation that they're going to be involved heavily. And it's my hope that they will strike this thing down ASAP. That's why I ain't doing nothing right now. I'm not destroying anything tonight. I'm not having boating accidents. Look, it's funny. It was funny at one time. I get it. Boating accident? No. The government doesn't fear the people when they're completely unarmed and there's a bunch of guns sitting in the bottom of a lake. I ain't boating, guys. I'm not digging. There's not going to be any digging or excavating going around my property anytime soon. I'm not digging. I'm not boating. I'm not buying any stamps. I mean, I'm going to buy stamps to send swag to you guys, like the 60-cent varieties and the 99-cent varieties, because I'm always sending out cool stuff to you guys, but I ain't rushing to buy a stamp. I'm not getting out the sledgehammer. I'm not whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing anything right now. What the heck am I supposed to do? I don't even understand what this means, but I do know it's unconstitutional within literally seconds of reading it. So I hope you guys had a good night. I'm going to read a couple more super chats here, which I really appreciate. And again, I have a 12-minute, much more concise version of like where there's a little more there to the very specifics, the meat and potatoes of this. But man, I think talking about what's going on and ways we can stop it is really, really important. It's getting more important every day. All right, what do I have here, Linda? All right, it looks like DLD After Dark came in about 10 minutes ago. Thanks for the super chat, man, and for being a channel member. He says he put it all together. F the ATF. They have gone way too far. Will not comply. Dude, like way too far. Like way with like 10 A's. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate what you're doing to try to build culture with your channel and keep up the good fight, man. We the people are literally the only thing we have left, but that's not a consolation prize. Like, there's a lot of good people out there, and that's a very powerful thing. Steve0545, thanks for the super chat, man, and for being a longtime channel member and supporter. Says the first page claims that we all are unlicensed owners of SBRs as of Monday/Tuesday. I know. That's what I'm saying. And then he says, I don't remember buying an SBR. My 4473 says pistols, alpha. Exactly, dude. That's what they're saying, that like they are going to be an SBR, like literally as of, we'll say it's Monday or Tuesday, right? Whenever, I mean, it is a federal holiday, Monday. So, yeah. But then you can allegedly get a free tax stamp, even though it says they shall collect the tax stamp and you shall pay it. Yeah, I know. It doesn't say, and that's what I wanted to make clear. Maybe this will be interpreted differently than that. I don't know. I don't even know my own name right now, guys. Like, the more you read this, the more your brain turns into mush. But people keep on saying, like, well, this won't go into effect for 120 days. No, it says it goes into effect immediately when it's published to the Federal Register. And that allegedly, or according to them, you'd have 120 days for a free tax stamp or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how to get the free tax stamp. I don't want to know how to get the free tax stamp. I don't want to know how to fall into a trap. Right? I don't know. This is all my opinion, but I smell a rat and I smell a trap. You know what I mean? Do you guys too? It just doesn't sit right. It doesn't read right, and even more importantly than that, it just doesn't sit right. There's something wrong here. There's a lot of things wrong here. I think most of you know that. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. I'm just being honest with you. Something doesn't look right. It doesn't read right. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't smell right. It doesn't make sense. There's too much like the horse is before the cart, but the cart's before the horse. But it's a fine if the cart's before the horse. You can't build an SBR right now, guys, first, and then get the tax stamp. Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. I can't give legal advice, and I do not want to give, like, tyrannical advice and say, you guys better not do this, but geez, oh, Pete. I'll just word it this way, because I really don't like to tell people what to do, but man, is it making me sad that so many people are just begging to comply as fast as they can right now. Ugh, that hurts my heart. Like, it literally does. I've heard the word loophole a lot today. What's the loophole? I don't know. I don't even want to think about that right now. I want to be free, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall, back to that word, shall not be infringed. That's what I have to say about that. Where's my loophole? How can I fast track this free text stamp? If I get a free text stamp, can I then get a free whatever? I don't know. Can you? May you? I don't know. May you depends on, I guess, if you lick the boot. Can you? Well, that's what can you physically do? I have no clue. I don't want to answer people like that. So I don't really have a mean bone in my body, and I don't want to be condescending, because people want to be condescending. They can find all kinds of things that I've said wrong, but I don't even know what to say to people. What are you guys saying to your friends? I'm going to ask you that. I need some advice, and then I'm going to get off of here because I've been on for over 2 hours already. Time flies hanging out with you guys. What do you even say to somebody when they say, where's my loophole? And I'm like, the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States and stuff. But what can I do to skirt this? How can I comply? Can I comply? I'm like, can you? I don't know. I mean, you're asking me if you can, like, physically make the neurons in your brain fire to make the nervous system, which dictates to the connective tissues of your muscles, which would allow your hands and arms to move. And you move like a robot as you're on the internet. I mean, I don't know. I guess you could. Can I get the free text stamp? Can I comply? Can I do this? Can I do that? I don't know. I ain't doing anything right now. You guys are all responsible for your own decisions and any consequences or liberty that you're going to get or not get from what you do. That's the advice I'll give to all of you. But I would expect you guys to be true to yourselves. And the only thing I've really asked of you guys this whole stream is, first of all, I want to thank you guys for being here. But the only thing I've asked of you is try to get more involved with your friends, with people you know, your local politicians. If there's no good ones, get behind someone that you think would be good, or run your dang self. Run yourself if there's not one good one in your whole hometown. I get it. You might be the only person in your hometown that's good, that could represent and stand up for the Constitution. If that's the case, then you'll have to do it. Or get behind somebody else that you think's better at it than you. That's the only thing I'm asking you guys. Try to get more involved. We have to defeat this somehow. And hopefully we're hearing videos and I can report on videos of what the court's doing. You know what I'm saying? I really appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to read every word of this chat when it's over. I'm thanking you guys ahead of time for helping to provide me some wisdom. And I always thank you guys for the encouragement that you offer me to keep coming on here doing this. And most importantly, to just keep trying to be an American and trying to help win the battle of good versus evil. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching and have a good one.